Anyway, so we are going to start with the simulation of large infrastructure in Cloud SIM, and this is one of the very specific topics which people are working around. And my name is Anupinder Singh. So just for the introduction part, this is going to be the flow of the session. So let me just put it as. So we have decided for 4 different topics. I'll try to cover them within 1 hour. We'll start with the homogeneous and heterogeneous data center host configurations. And then we will be talking about the VM configurations, how they can be worked around within the Cloud SIM simulation toolkit. Then we'll see how the random cloudlets can be generated, even though I have explained it very well through my YouTube videos as well. But still, this is something which is required to be done, and there are a few specific points that are required to be considered when you are working on random cloudlet generations. Then there is a 4th point, that is your delayed cloudlet submission, and this is something which is required in very specific scenarios. So we'll be discussing about all these 4 topics. First, some conceptual part, and then we will be looking into the demo part. So let me start with the heterogeneous and homogeneous part. So when you say homogeneous, we are actually looking at something which has a same elements or same paths, right? And when you talk about the heterogeneous side, it is actually consisting of different types of configuration or different type of parts, and each of the component will be different from the other one, right? So homogeneous, when we are saying in context of cloud simulation, this is something which we are talking in the sense that, okay, if I am looking at a data center which is of homogeneous host, so that means all the number of hosts which are available inside that particular data center is actually same, right? So if the host configuration is, let's say, a Xeon processor, which is quad core, which has let's say 8 GB of RAM, which has a bandwidth capacity of 1 GB, which has a storage of let's say dedicated storage of that particular host around 1 TB, and the included let's say attached storage SAN storages of somewhere around 1000 terabytes and so on, right? So that's all homogeneous. Whereas heterogeneous, which is if I talk about the homogeneous kind of hardware, it's a myth. You cannot have a homogeneous hardware unless it's a new data center which has been set up. Whereas the heterogeneous part, when you are saying that heterogeneous, so there might be some systems which are of the same configuration that we already discussed. Some system, they might be of AMD based processor with quad core. The host might be consisting of a GPU. Some host may have 1 TB, some host may have 2 TB, right? Some may have the bandwidth capacity of 1 GB, and some may have bandwidth capacity of 10 GB, and so on, depending upon what configuration you are looking at. So homogeneous is something which is hypothetical, right? We will never see a data center which has a homogeneous set of hardware, right? And heterogeneous is something which is practical, right? So every cloud-based service provider, you will find that over the period of time, they add certain set of hardware, and that hardware will be definitely the advanced version or advanced generation of the previous version. So there will be a different type of hardwares which are there. So general lifespan of a particular hardware is around 4 to 6 years, depending upon what sort of service provider it is. And the same thing applies on the VM configuration. So if you look at the very particular prospect, we are talking about the data center and the virtual machine, data center, virtual machine, and host configuration in terms of real cloud. So I took an example of Amazon and Google, right? So we are going to look at their actual particular configurations. So in terms of the Amazon, let me take you to the particular link, right? So in terms of Amazon, what you will see is there are 2 types of services they provide. One is the virtual machine instances, which is given under Elastic Cloud Compute, and another service which has been provided under Elastic Cloud Compute is the dedicated host configuration. So if you look at the configuration, this is what you find. So they have defined certain set of families, right? And every individual host may have certain sockets and their specific cores which are available under that particular part. Now, in comparison to Amazon and Google, let me open the Google's dedicated node. Google call it node, and whereas Amazon call it dedicated hosts, right? So if you look at their configuration, you will see there are certain set of machine types: E2 machine type, N2 machine type, N2D, N1 machine type, and they have their own configuration correspondingly, right? So this particular machine type has 32 vCPU and 128 and so on. So you can look into this particular part, and they clearly define that what sort of application they are applicable to, right? And what sort of configurations are available for their machine type. So these are some of the real cloud-based example that you will find in terms of these particular cloud service providers. So here also we have the similar kind of thing, and they have defined large, extra large, medium, and so on, right? And if we go further, they define that what sort of instances you can define, what sort of cores it will be consumed. So every individual service, I'll be very specific here, every individual service that is provided through Amazon or Google are basically virtualized. But when we say the dedicated host, in that particular part, you are going to subscribe to certain specific type of instances which are going to have a dedicated hardware to it. When I say dedicated, that means the complete hardware set which is available to you will be allocated for your application or for your virtual instance only, right? So if we look into these kind of configuration, we get to know about that. Okay, what is the kind of infrastructure these cloud-based service providers are entitling their users for, and they charge you corresponding to that, right? They give you what is the number of hours which you are using. I think there is some information about the price is also provided. So total cores consumed, no. So there is I think price is supposed to be, yeah. So pricing are defined under these tiers. So let me see if I show you that link. But anyways, so the point I want to make here is that these real life cloud service providers, they have their own set of configurations, and they are heterogeneous. They are not homogeneous, right? So C4 has 20 cores, and whereas if you look at C6G, they have 64 cores available to that particular system, and they are physical cores they are talking about. They are not virtual cores they are talking about. They are physical cores, right? And similarly, I think 64 is the one. No, 72 is the another system which they have. This is 72 cores, which with the X1 instance. Whereas for this particular Google-based system, you can see they have only mentioned in terms of virtual vCPUs, because they refer their machines as the sole tenant, but in a virtualized mode, right? And they also refer to E2 micro, E2 small, E2 medium. So depending upon what configuration we are looking at in terms of the hardware structure and all. So when we are trying to work around all these things inside the cloud sim, we also need to take consideration of these type of configurations which are running in a real world. So there are another instances which I just wanted you to see into look into, and these are the EC2 type instances, right? So these are the virtual instances they are talking about. So there are a couple of different instances. They have Mac T4G, and they have their own version. So T4G Nano, T4G Micro, T4G Small, and you can see what the difference they are going to get. So these are the virtual instances I'm talking about. So when I'm going to show you the demo, I'll be picking up these dedicated host configuration for the data center host definitions, right? Like they have defined over here that E2 machine is something having 32 processors and 128 GB RAM and so on. Whereas when I'm going to talk about the virtual machines, I'll be taking the configuration, some sample configuration from these type of instances. So these are some of the instances from the Amazon, and these are the other instances from the Google VM instances, right? So Google service provider. So you can see there are certain instances they have given, and they have given the specific memory and CPU section. So this is what is the bridging gap that I wanted to have you in terms of the understanding of this particular tool, because this is very important that you should be able to link the configuration part when you are doing it in the coding section of the of the Cloud SIM and to the real world cloud, because what you are trying to do inside the Cloud SIM is doing the simulation of the real world cloud, right? And depending upon the configuration of your physical machine, you can work it around. So what's next is there for me, and is the demo. So I've just configured it on my machine. So this is what I have. Yeah. So here, I think everyone knows how the examples work, right? So every one of you are the beginner level. So any example, if I take, just to give you a brief, this example will contain certain set of methods, and main method is the one which is very important. There are other methods which are the supportive methods for defining the supportive API. So main method has certain steps to follow. So very first step is done these number of lines, these number of instructions to the initialization of the particular Cloud SIM example, and then correspondingly you create the data center, you create the data center broker. So this create data center is actually going to define the host and all. We are going to look inside of this particular function when we are trying to define the host. Then the data center broker is being created through this create broker, and the broker ID is used as a user ID within the system to represent the user within the Cloud SIM simulation, right? Then we create the virtual machine list that VM. Then VM is created and VM instances are created and they are being added to the virtual machine, and then they are submitted to the broker. And same is done for the cloudlets. That means task. So tasks are being created, the instances are created, their user ID is being set. This is very important instruction. If you are not going to do it, it is not going to get submitted to the simulation. So the user ID is set, and then in case if you want, you can set your virtual machine ID. It's up to you. Then we have that list to be submitted to the broker, and the simulation is started. So whatever the configuration we have done prior to this particular start simulation instruction, that will be put into the actual execution for the simulation of the cloud system. And once that is done, stop simulation has been called and the output is printed on the screen. So just for the sake of one clarity, I'm just running this particular example. So this is how it is going to show you the output in terms of your simulation part, right? So there's only one cloudlet which has been provided here. Now let me take you to the example 6, because we are trying to simulate a larger part of this particular example, right? So if I give you an idea that how this particular example works, so let me take you to the main part. If you don't know how I picked it into this particular taskbar, so I just go to right click, go to show breadcrumb. You can actually see these things in your machine as well if you are following side by side, right? So from here, I go to main method, and we can see that the first couple of instructions are same like the other example, whereas the second set of instructions where the data center is being created, there are two different data centers created over here, right? So that means we are looking at a larger prospect. Even if it creates some kind of confusion to you, we can comment it for this particular period of time. So we work with only one single data center. Then we have data center broker, right? And that broker ID has been generated. And then if we look at this particular section, this is where the short version has been created. That means we have created separate function for creating the virtual machine and for creating the cloudlet. So create VM and create cloudlet, two separate methods are being created in this particular example. So create cloudlet and create VM. These are the two methods. So, and if you go and look inside the create cloudlet, you can see they clearly have the similar kind of instruction written inside of them. Instead of one thing, that it has created a for loop, so that whatever the number of cloudlets we request to this particular function, it should be able to generate all those set of instances and then return back the list to the main function. And similar is done for the create VM over here. So here the for loop has been created and a list has been returned back to the main function. So let me take you back to the main function again, and then simulation is started, and the broker brings back the execution results of the cloudlets, and the simulation has been stopped and the printing of the list has been done. So this is somewhat extended version of that. Right now, let's look at the primary prospect that we wanted to have the dedicate and have the different kind of host configurations. So if I go inside the create data center, right? So we know that there are certain set of processing elements that we create. There is a MIPS, million instruction per second parameter, which has been defined, and this is 1,000. So that means 1,000, just for the sake of simplicity, we say 1,000 instructions can be executed on that particular processing element, which is basically a core. Uh, uh, and this particular workload is going to have 1,000 instruction in per second mode, right? So that means if we have 4 cores, so that means that one single processor, 4 cores, one single processor can execute 4,000 instructions in one single second, right? So this is the total capacity of it. So if I compare this with because we are talking about 4 cores here, if I compare it with this configuration, this is very small, right? So if we look at the compute capacity over here, where it is, yeah, EC2 instance type, right? So if I talk about this only, this instance type, we have 4 cores, we have 8 cores, but these are the instances for my uh, virtual machine. But here is the actual dedicated host configuration. So if we look at physical cores are 20, 36, 36, 64. So let's say if I want to simulate the C4 within that particular set of configuration. So what I need to do is I need to increase the number of these particular processing elements. So this is very important. If I am trying to work on certain kind of research work, which requires to benchmark with the real cloud. So I need to map that particular configuration over here. So I'm just talking about this simple example right now. I'll be coming on to the Power Aware examples too. So here, because I need to have multiple instances of the processing elements within one list, I'm talking about processing element one, processing element list one. Okay, there are two processing element lists. One is processing element one and another is processing element two. This two is basically used with the second host, whereas processing element list one is used with the first host. So this current configuration, what it is doing right now, this current configuration is basically giving you uh, the the capability of a data center where two hosts are being defined, right? Two hosts I'm talking about. So if I say within the demo part, let me write it over here. So by default, what you have is, by default you have your configuration on the data center where two hosts are being provided, and these hosts are having individually, one is 4 core based system and second is dual core based system. I'm sorry, I think my tablet is aligned a little bit in no diagonal way. So these are the configuration which are there for the example 6, right? Whereas we are trying to convert it into the high performance or high scale simulation. So we are going to have one host with 20 cores and maybe second host with 36 cores, and then we can simply see what is the different set of work it is going to work around. So let me take you back to the system again. So when we are trying to have more configuration, so what I can do is I can simply have for loop int, let's say PE count. I'm starting with 0 because every index starts from 0 within the Cloud SIM, and PE count, which is less than, oh my God, PE count should be less than, let's say 19, and PE count should be no, executed 20 times. So I take one instruction from this only, right? And rest all I'm going to just comment for the purpose of comparison. So what I'm going to do is a similar thing as it is done in the cloudlet generation. So the only thing which I'm going to change is PE count, right? And now at this particular point of time, the PE list will be added with the 20 instances of a PE class, and every individual core which we are considering as PE will have a MIPS capability of 1000. So this is done for the very first host. And if I talk about the second host, so for second host, we said 36 cores So that means starting from this 36 cores and PE list. Let me just copy this so that we should not be missing any specific parameter and comment it for you so that you can have some comparison. So here again, PE count, and we have this over here. So PE list 1 and PE list 2. So here what we have, 36 cores will be generated, and here what we have, 20 cores will be generated. Now, once we go further, we can simply see that there is a host which has a RAM capability of 2048, storage of around 100,000 or 1,000, yeah, somewhere around 10 lakh bytes, and bandwidth capability of 10,000. And then both these things are given as a simple RAM provisioners and simple bandwidth provisioners, and correspondingly the PE list for the first host and the PE list for the second host, right? And they have been provided to the VM scheduler time shared in both the host instances. So this is what is the basic configuration which I have right now. So if I try to run this just to check if it is working or not, so everything is working fine. So we have 19 virtual machines, but if we look at this particular section, we have virtual machine 4, 5. From virtual machine 4 to 19, they have been failed by RAM, right? So this is the very first thing that you should be considering while creating your particular configuration for the simulation. So every individual system, whenever you define on the basis of CPU. There are few parameters on the basis of which the whole thing works: CPU, RAM, and bandwidth. So if any of these things are not equal to what is the requirement, in that particular case, the failure will happen. The VM will not allocate. VM allocation will be failed, right? So here the same thing happened. The particular system actually failed on the RAM, right? Actually failed on the RAM, and that is what has been displayed over here. So let me just bring it back. So every individual virtual machine after VM3 has been failed on the basis of RAM. Then it has been tried again, and then that particular set of host is not been supporting the next host. So overall, if we look at, there are only 7 virtual machines which are being created on both the hosts, right? So 8 to 19 onwards is not being created. So what we can do in this particular case, either we reduce the RAM capability over here, or we simply go and increase the RAM capability. So if I compare the RAM capability with the overall system, right? So let me take you to the CPU instance. So if I talk about the instance, which is a large instance, so we are supposed to talk about this. Yeah, so here, if we look at 16 cores, I think which system I did for the 20 C4 we did, right? So if we look at C4, so this is C4. So we have looked at certain vCPUs, so 20 vCPUs. So we are looking at a memory of 30 gigabytes, right? So let's say I presume that we are considering a system with a 16 vCPU. There might be 4 vCPUs required by the hypervisor itself. So 30 gigabyte of RAM is supposed to be entered. So 30 gigabytes is let me calculate. I'm very bad on calculation, even though. So we have 30,720. Okay, so in terms of RAM, I'm going to put 30,720. So this is the RAM we are going to talk about. So this is basically resembling what 30 GB of primary memory in comparison to what we have in our particular EC2 instance, right? So if I now run this particular system, we can see the virtual machines are being trying to be created on the data center. And then if we look at the another part, that is the bandwidth which has been failed, right? So again, the same thing I repeat, CPU has been given, RAM is given, but the bandwidth is not provided. So the bandwidth is also supposed to be done. So if you will look at the bandwidth part, so bandwidth is around 500 Mbps. So not 500, 2000 Mbps we are talking about. So somewhere around 2 gigabytes per second. So let me increase this to 20. I'm just making it large enough to support the simulation, right? So if I look at this particular output now, we are trying to create the virtual machine on the data center, and then we have tried to create it on the number of hosts, and all the virtual machines have been created correspondingly, and then further the cloudlets are being provided to that particular part. So this is the very first stage that we have actually crossed in terms of defining the simulation with a large infrastructure of one single data center. So I'm only talking about two systems right now, but we may have more number of systems, right? So how we increase it? So that increase can be done in terms of this. So let's say here again, I'm going to have a for loop, because right now there are only two hosts we have for this particular example. So if I say int host count, we start from 0, and let's say each type of host is, let's say 20 or 30, whatever you want to have. So I am trying to have host count less than, let's say 20 for the first set, and let's say this is host count and plus plus. So this is the very first thing we have. So this is my done. Great. So this is the host count which we have right now. And here, what we can do is, because I need to have it for the next version, host ID. So the host ID will be increment. Let's say I remove it and simply put it as host count over here. Great. So right now, there is one thing which I need to take care of, because I'm going to create host for multiple times. So let's say I start with this, and I do the for loop again here for the second instance, right? So this second instance is now formatted. Great. So here, if we look at this particular part, yeah, so we have host count equals to 0, host count less than 20 for the very first host type. And whereas second host type, we also have to have host count, but it will not start from 0 because we have a host ID, right? So if my host ID for this particular set of list will be 19 for the last host, so the next host should be starting from the 20. So what I will do is I'll start from host ID equals to whatever my host count. So maybe I put this particular host ID over here so that my host ID gets updated every time with the latest count. So I'll start from here, right? And then if I can remove this. So this is just only a logic I'm putting out. So next host ID will start from whatever I left at the previous one, and that will be added with 1. Okay, and the host count will be, let's say I'm looking at next 30 systems. So that will be host ID plus 1 or plus 30, right? So this is the next number I'm going to look at. Okay, so this will be, let's say 19 is the previous one, so plus 20, because my ID is going to get started from the 2020 list, and then next 30 host I'm going to create. So this is how you can make a logic. So we have here again, host count will be replacing the host ID. And then if we execute this particular example, we have many number of hosts now, right? So for data center 1, we have these number of hosts available, right? And they have been allocated to the particular virtual machine, and then correspondingly the cloudlets are being generated, right? So this is a very large data center we have defined right now. Not very large, it's a very nominal in terms of the service provider point of view. So maybe if I put 3,000 here, and maybe if I put 2,000 here, then it will become a very large infrastructure, right? So if I go and create this, I need to save it. You can see it also, it can generate easily corresponding to that particular part. So this is the beauty of this particular cloud sim simulator, that we can actually go and create the infrastructure. Now, just to test again, I'm just going back to the main function, and here I'm just taking the same configuration of the VMs and I'm increasing it to 2000. or maybe 20,000, and I'm increasing the count of cloudlets to the 4 lakh. Okay. So this is just a small change I did in the CloudSIM example 6, and you can simply see that we are executing this particular thing, right? So still the console is trying to print, and VMs are being created, cloudlets are being sent. Because the console has a very limited buffer, we cannot see every individual output on the console. But yes, this is how the simulation can be scaled up in terms of your particular set of scenario in comparison to what you have within your system. So right now, if you see what my system performance is happening, this is what is happening on my machine right now, right? So this is what is there at the background. System is using somewhere around, I think, 9.8 GB for this particular simulation, and the CPU is around 49. Previously it was 100, and so on. So depending upon what is the capability of your machine, you can run as many number of instances as you want corresponding to this particular system. Now, because the simulation is happening and there are a lot of different kind of loops which are happening in between, there are a lot of different kind of events which are being sent between the entities, so the further output will take some time to print. So this is what you have in terms of your scalability and the other factors, right? So let me stop for just to have some testing, right? So maybe I reduce it to little bit less so that we can have some output for the display. Right, so 4,000 VMs are already being created, 4,000 cloudlets are being executed, and so on. So things are working fine. So this is only the limit of the buffer which I can see right now. Okay, so if I'm trying to print it on the file, I can just do the file handling code within my log file. That is to be done inside the print cloudlet list, and you can actually have a complete list, which is generally, when you start printing it, which generally goes to around 2 GB in terms of your text file. So that is quite heavy in terms of the printing part. So this is how the scaling can be done in terms of your hardware right now. So this is only what I did for the hardware part. So I just reduce it to small numbers so that we can have other demos for this particular work. So I reduce it to, let's say, 3 and 5, right? So 5 are there. So this is what we have with respect to the host. Now let me take you to the instances. So these are the virtual instances we are talking about. So VMs. So let's say we are talking about C4 large, 2 vCPUs, 3.5 GB of RAM, and some dedicated configuration for this. So let me take you to the create VM method. So here, as we are talking about the CPU's part, so what I can consider here is the MIPS speed, which I can consider is, this is right now 1,000. I can reduce it to 500. I can increase it to 2,000, whatever the number of MIPS I wanted to have, I can have it. So let's decrease it to 500 so that more number of virtual machines can be created. So this is the small instance I'm going to create. So 3.5 GB is, maybe if I consider approximately, so it will be 4 GB, 4096, and the size here is basically for the hard drive. So this is a very small size. This is 10 GB. So if you want to increase it to 100 GB or 1 terabyte, that you can do. You can have more number of processors corresponding to your virtual machine. So more number of processors it asks for, the more the lesser the infrastructure is going to hold the virtual machines. And I think this is what we can have. So with respect to the bandwidth, so I may increase it to somewhere around 1 lakh bits, right? So bandwidth is always in bits, whereas RAM and your particular hardware size is in MBs, right? So let me execute it right now. So we know we have around 20. Let me see, just confirm again. Oh, 200. So we have around 20 virtual machines to be hosted on the set of hardware that we have just created, right? Which is of if I give you a review again, so we have 5 hosts with the 20 cores, Yeah, with 20 cores and 3 hosts with 36 cores. Okay, so I'm going to execute this, and we can simply see that all the virtual machines are being executed. Okay, let me see. There are some failures I think happened. Oh, we cannot test it because of the buffer size. So let me reduce the number of cloudlets to 100. Okay, so here we have, great. So right now the virtual machines, 19 virtual machines were 20 virtual machines were requested, but there are few virtual machines which were like failed due to the storage part, right? So I missed to mention, I'm sorry, I missed to mention the storage parameter over there. So storage is also a very important part. So storage, I need to increase the storage. So maybe I can put more uh, zeros, and then we can see again. Okay, so all the virtual machines from 0 to 19 are being created, and they all are being created on the number of hosts which are provided. This is 567, 567, and so on. And then cloudlet, all the cloudlets are being sequentially allocated to all the virtual machines, and they are all being received on this very specific time, because uh, we are actually using the time shared cloudlet time shared policy over here, right? So all the cloudlets are being executed under the time shared policy, and this is the reason why you are actually looking into this particular prospect. So all of these tasks have the same start time and the same finish time. So if you want to remove it, like if you want to change it to the other part, so maybe I can change it to the space shared, and you can see the difference happening. And this difference will only happen if we have more number of cloudlets available on one single virtual machine. So let me run it again, and you can see there is a difference of start time and end time. So for this particular set of virtual machine, we have 2 tasks allocated to it, and both have the same start time and finish time. Now, why this happened? Can anyone mention why this happens? Can anyone tell me why this thing happened here? That both the tasks, even though we have used the cloud virtual machine as one single uh, as a space shared policy for the cloudlets, but still it displays us the 2 parallel executions. Can somebody mention it in the chat? Okay, so we have one chat. Tasks may be time shared. No, tasks are not time shared. They are, if you look carefully, I have just highlighted one particular parameter. Can somebody tell me what this parameter is? So it's a PES number, right? So if I have more than one number of processing elements allocated to one single virtual machine, you can have a parallel processing for your task, right? And that is the reason why we have 2 tasks running parallelly to the system. Does it make sense what I'm talking right now in this session? Because it might be the case because I'm talking continuously. So can you just type in the chat that is it okay, or still it is going over your head? Okay, anyone else? Yeah, Kapil says okay, sir, fine. Abdul says it's okay. Yes, great. Okay. So I have only 4 replies. What about others? Like everyone is like, is it going over there? You can just simply mention. Oh, Neha, it requires to be a bit fast. I'm recording side by side, so you can watch it later as well. So you will have a repeat of this particular session again. Okay, still, I think. Uh, so let me bring myself back to the discussion. So it sometimes happens like when responses are less, so yeah, we can think of that it might be going overhead or something. So anyways, so this is the reason why the output is like that. So the point comes is, again, you have to figure out a lot of different kind of parameters, permutation combinations when you are working on such kind of scenarios which you are building up. So this is not only in the case of the virtual machines. It is also in the case of your cloudlets, right? Because the cloudlets right now, what we are running is very small, right? So if I say the cloudlet which I'm trying to run should have a value of maybe 50,000, right? So 50, not 50,000, 5 lakh instructions, and the size which is it is going to transfer through the network should be around 3,000, or maybe for the output size, I generate more data, right? So after processing, the data will be generated more, and that will be traveling back to the, whatever the distributed node it has, and the corresponding full utilization. So in that particular case, you will see the difference between the output what we get here, right? So this is the another set of versions which you get in terms of your execution part. So let me do some changes again. So maybe I reduce the number of virtual machine. Maybe I get 2 virtual machines for this, and then we run this particular part for the system. So if we look at this particular part for this virtual machine ID, because we did it in a space shared mode. So the very first set of virtual machine is going to take this particular time, and then another round takes the another one, because the starting time is going to be different in that particular case. I'm sorry, this is the second round. This is the third round for the scheduled part, and this is the fourth round for that particular same virtual machine. So number of cloudlets which are being executed will be parallelly executed on that particular set of hosts. So there is only one set of host on which it is going to be provided. So 2 hosts are being engaged for these 2 virtual machines, and all the other 100 tasks are going to be allocated to those 2 virtual machines, and so on. So this is what you get in terms of the configurations which you have. Let me take you to the configuration part again. So let's say 2 vCPUs, 4 GB RAM, and some bandwidth is provided. So network storage is like very medium. Then let's say there are more number of vCPUs if it is required, and more number of memory if it is required. So 60 GB it is talking about, right? Whereas if I wanted to give 60 GB, I think that will not be possible for us, because we defined our system with only the RAM of 30 GB, right? So if I want to have a 60 GB, I need to increase this particular part. So anyways, I just put it as 25 GB over this particular virtual machine. So this is virtual machine, this is the bandwidth, this is the RAM. So 25 GB is 25 into 25 into 1024 is like, oh, so this is 25,600, right? So I'm going to put 25,600. Let's see this particular virtual machine is allocated or not. Okay, so let me execute it. So here we can see we have the virtual machine created over the set of host, and the cloudlets are being sent to that. Whereas if I increase it to somewhere around, let's say 31 GB, so 31, let's say 3166, right? So if we do that, we can simply see that the virtual machine is being failed on all the hosts which are available in the data center, because the maximum RAM which is being provided is only 30 GB, and your virtual machine was not created, so your cloudlet is not being created, right? So this is what permutation combination, I think you can look into the system, and then you can work it around. So if I reduce it to 30600, because the maximum capacity on the host we have is 30720. So this is the reason why this time the VM will be allocated to the machine, right? So the capability, if we wanted to increase, if I increase it to 50,000, right? So you can simply see the allocation is failed by the MIPS. Why? Because my MIPS on the host is only 1,000, right? So if I increase into 1 lakh, right? So in that particular case, your particular configuration will go and run around, and the effect which you find in terms of the execution of your cloudlet is tremendous. So here, if you see, the time has been reduced in 2 figures only, whereas previously it was 4 figures for your virtual machine execution. So there is endless possibility for this particular configuration part. You can do it in any way as you want. The point is, you should know that if I want to increase the configuration for this particular virtual machine and the number of virtual machines which I wanted to have on my system, they should be, parallelly supported by the hardware which has been created correspondingly by using the create data center function. So it's something which you should always remember, right? And these parameters, the parameters which are very important to consider while working on your simulation scenario: CPU, RAM, bandwidth, and storage. These are the four parameters which are very important, and these are the only four parameters which are actually been managed by your hypervisor, right? Basically what is happening, hypervisor is doing all the job for you in the real cloud based system, right? So here also the same thing happens, right? So four different parameters of your compute are being monitored by the system, and they are being uh, pushed through the simulation for all the scenarios that you wanted to run around. So you have to be very careful while working around that particular part. So if we one more point I want to make, so like we have done this cloudlet scheduler space shared, we can also change our particular set of host scheduler policies to space shared as well, right? So you can simply change them to space shared, right? And they will also behave in the similar manner, right? So there will be some failure of the virtual machine if we create more based on any of the parameters that are being considered for the space shared allocations or space shared scheduling of the system, right? So this is what is there in terms of your particular set of configurations for the data center and the virtual machine configurations, right? And I think these are some of the links which are quite helpful for you when you are doing some benchmarking regarding your research, because whenever we are working on our research projects, we have to benchmark it to the very specific set of real life configurations, right? So this is what you can utilize correspondingly. Now let's bring our attention to the random cloudlet configurations that we must be able to generate for our machines. I think there's one chat. Okay, Mazhar is asking, is it possible to run this or distribute one task at multiple multiple VMs? Yes, it will be possible. So I'll be talking about it. So again, if you want to be very specific, so here is the cloudlet. So you can see PES number. So if you increase the number of PES, that is what brings you the parallel execution correspondingly. But provided that your VM also supports it. Okay, that is very important. If your VM doesn't support two but it has one, it will not do the parallel processing, right? Okay, I'll take questions at the end. So let me take you to the cloudlet part, and because we wanted to have a random cloudlet configuration, so there are two ways we can do it. One is by using a random class of Java, which is available in Java util package. And another part is defining a manual random cloudlet load. Now, both of them has their own pros and cons. So when I talk about the random class, even in previous webinar, I showed you that. So random is a class which we have r equals to new random class, right? So we have this random class over here. So once I do this particular part, so you can see it has been added to my imports, right? This is the beauty of using the IDE. So once I have this random, so what I can do is I can just simply go to the length, right, within this particular instance, and plus r dot next int and whatever the seed I wanted to give. So maybe 2000 I can give, right? So when I have 2000 seed, so any number from 0 to 2000, it is going to generate randomly, and it will add to the length of the system. So if I run this particular machine, you can see the changes in the time of finish, right? So you can simply see the difference between a different set of cloudlets. They all have different type of length corresponding to their system. So maybe if you wanted to print that what is the length which I get, so maybe within this particular yeah, here. So what I can do is I can just simply print the whole thing. So for I think int length from, maybe not for each cloudlet, C, I getIn cloudlet list. I'm going to print the length. I think that is through the log class. We can have a log class here. I think log. Yes, it's a log class, or yeah, it's a log class. So we have log dot print, and I wanted to have a print or c dot get cloudlet length dot. Okay, so I think it should work directly. So maybe I just type in length of cloudlet ID, and here c dot cloud get cloudlet ID, and then plus, and then simply I do this. So I think I should be able to print this out on the console. Okay, so let me take you to the top. Oh, we haven't added a new line. I think new line can be done with the intent. No. This method print line. Okay, so here we can see the cloudlet length is now random. Okay, all because of that value which we have added to that particular system. Now the problem is with this type of technique is because let me just copy few of them. Control R, C, Notepad, and okay, where is the Notepad? Yeah, here it is, Notepad, and I just paste it. Now here in one simulation run, I'm getting this particular length, and whereas in another simulation run, you will find that I'm getting the different length for those cloudlets, right? So if you are just see carefully, 5 lakh 706, whereas for previous simulation it was 5 lakhs 192. So if we are trying to do a benchmarking for our particular simulation, it's not possible to do the repetitive test on your particular workload, right? So what method I generally use is I simply generate one single set of configuration like I did here. So instead of printing this whole thing, I'm just going to have just simple one. So this is going to print me the particular set of length, right? So length for my particular list, right? So I just what I simply do is I just simply go Control A, Control V, save, and I save it to the place. So I go to right click, properties, I go to this particular path, Control C, Control R, V. So we are here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it inside of this particular path. And this is a text file I'm having, cloudlet workload txt. And once I go back to my project, I just simply do a refresh, and you can simply see I get this workload over here, right? And next time, whenever I'm going to run my particular set of code, right, and within this particular create cloudlet function, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a file instead of doing a random load generation. I'm going to read a file, read that particular length from the file, and then put it into that particular cloud instance. So this is one of the best way how you can have a random load generated for your simulation and then do a repetitive kind of test on that with your algorithm, right? Because you cannot have every time you cannot have some kind of data set with you, right? If you want to test it with synthetic data set where your application load is supposed to be simulated, then it is going to be working around for that particular kind of simulation scenario. So this is one thing which you can do for that particular prospect. So I think time is 10, so I need to be very quick. So this is this section I think you can cover up. This is pretty simple that you can follow corresponding to your simulation scenarios. So this is where the defining the manual random cloudlet load can be done. What about the next? There is a delayed cloudlet submission, right? So there are certain instances where you wanted to have some delay to be added to the system, right? Now that delay can be default delay, which can be added to the system, or that can, or a very specific delay that you want to have in a particular task. Okay. So for this, what you can do is the simplest way, the random delay directly fed to the simulation engine, that can be done within the data center class, right? So I'll be going to the data center broker class, and within that data center broker class, in the previous webinar, we spoke about some implementation of the task scheduling algorithm. So we did inside of this Summit Cloudlet, right? So there is this send now method. Okay, so this send now method is supposed to be replaced because we are considering what we are considering the delay to be directly fed to the simulation engine corresponding to a particular cloudlet submission, right? So instead of having this send now, what we can have is we can have a send method. Okay, and the send method, if we look at the send method, what exactly it has in terms of its parameter, you can see there is an entity name, there is a delay which is going to be there, and there is a cloudlet tag, and there is a object. So that means this is second signature we need to use. So if we look at the part, so I'm going to have a new parameter in this particular place. Now that is a delay we wanted to have. So again, we can have, for simplicity, we can have a random delay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring in this particular like instruction just above this particular line, and the random delay which I wanted to have now, because the CloudSim based system works on the clock tick, and that clock tick is considered as seconds, right? So here what we can have is we have a random delay next int, right? And that next int should be from up to 100, right? So the delay can be of 100 seconds for submission of a cloudlet to the simulation engine, right? So this is what we are just considering right now. So if I execute this particular example, right? If we execute this particular example, you can simply see right now some printing has been happening, and that after that printing, you can simply see that the cloudlets are being submitted to the system, but they are being received at very different times, right? So some are going to be received at 11, 12, and so on, right? They are not received back at the same time. Now this is why this is happening. This is happening. And in fact, you can look at what time they are starting, right? You can simply see what different time they are starting on. And this is not because of the scheduler type. This is because the time they have been delayed for the actual execution of that particular cloudlet. So even if we wanted to test that particular part, so maybe I change it to the time shared just to be very sure that what I have just said is true, because I sometimes there are a few things which I test after some time, and then again if I run it. Okay, so great. So it clearly resembles, right? So for all the cloudlets which have been delayed, you can simply see corresponding to that particular part, right? The delay added to that particular machine, or sorry, not machine, the task that is going to be provided within this particular section, right? So one is this. This is pretty straightforward, simple. You can just simply go to the data center broker class, and then instead of using send now, you simply use send method and add a delay to the system, right? There's another way to do it, and that another way is we just simply go to the cloudlet, right, and just add one more parameter at the end. I'm just going to add one more parameter, private int and delay. Okay, so this delay is supposed to be added to some function. Okay, so this delay, let's say I just copy and paste this particular constructor, right? So because I need to have that delay as a parameter to my constructor, right? So I'm just going to make a copy of that, And here, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have final end delay for task. Okay. And when we are considering this particular thing, I'm just going to have delay equals to delay for task is to be added here. So what we did is we added the parameter of delay to the cloudlet. And what I can do is while defining the instance of my cloudlet, right? Let me go here within the create cloudlet method. While defining this instance, what I can do is I can simply go and do another r.random. Oh, sorry, r.next int, and that next int is up to let's say 20 seconds, right? So it will range from 0 to 20. So if I run it again, not run it again, I'm sorry. So instead of doing this random part, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have the current cloudlet, right? So instead of having this random, let's say int delay to be added equals to cloudlet, whatever the current instance of cloudlet I have. This is the cloudlet dot. I'm sorry, there's one more thing I have to do, and that is within cloudlet, I have to define a get method, right? Just similar to what we have the another. So get, like we had that get length, right? So get. Yeah. So just like this, or maybe let me take you to the length first. Finish time cost. So similar to this, right? So I just make a copy of this for you. So get delay, and within this we are going to return the value of delay, right? So here delay dot get delay method is to be called here. So that means whatever the delay we have provided at the parameter at the instantiation of the cloud, then it will be working for us. Okay, so mismatch cannot convert the type to. Okay, so that's a long. Anyways, I can do a log here. Great. So this is what the setting I've done. Instead of random, I've written this particular part and I've added the parameter of delay. Okay, so I'm sorry because the delay parameter which I've defined at the top is of integer type. So I should be returning integer in that particular case. So this should be int, right? So once we have this particular part, and if we go and execute this, so whatever the delay we were getting in that particular place, we are going to get the delay over here as well, right? So this is the delay what we get in terms of our particular system. So because the maximum delay which we have given is the 20, so the delay has been added to the system. If we increase the delay within the cloudlet, let's say when I was I was putting this particular value. So if I increase the delay over here in this particular random object, then you will be able to find that there are more start times, higher start times we are getting for corresponding cloudlet, right? So this is how you can actually figure out the random submission of your cloudlet story system, right? So either you do it hard codedly in this particular set method, or you generate a new parameter within your cloudlet class and then write it in your particular example definition, and then you utilize that particular definition in the particular data center broker and so on. So this is how you can do your randomness in terms of submission of your cloudlets, right? So that is what is in terms of defined as a cloudlet parameter, right? So that is what I spoke about in the last. So this is what is there in terms of your delayed cloudlet submissions and all that stuff. So I think that makes some sense for all of us, and this brings us to the end of the session, and we are open for the queries for our attendees. So I'm open for queries. I'm just giving you an option to unmute yourself, or you can simply type in your chat if you're not comfortable for using your mic. So I'm okay with everything. Right, so the house is open for the queries. You can simply type in your queries. Okay, so Heather is asking, the very first query it is asking is, what is the purpose of delay? So delay is, there are certain scenarios where you have to simulate that there are different number of tasks are submitted at the different point of time, right? So if you wanted to have that simulation, in that case, this delay can be utilized. That is the purpose of the delay for your cloudlet system. Okay, so Mazhar has asked for several tasks concurrently run on one virtual machine in terms of multi-threshing. Possible or not? Multi-threshing. So generally, it's very simple thing that the CloudSIM does for you. The simple thing is like, uh, whatever the number of cores you ask for a particular cloudlet, if it is available, it generally reduces the number of uh, uh, length from that particular cloudlet. So if I say I have a virtual machine with two vCPUs, each having capability of 1000, so that means with every clock tick, that task is going to run on that particular virtual machine, 2000 MIPS, 2000 length will be decreased. So and that is what we have correspondingly. So if there is a task with 10,000 instruction length and it is executing on two vCPUs, each having 1000, so that means 2000 MIPS in total is available. So 10,000 divided by 2000, that means the time which is spent into the execution will be 5 seconds. Whereas if it is one CPU, the time spent in the execution will be 10 seconds. So that is what is the difference. So multi-threading is not the actual work which has been done into this. So if you are considering the threading, then you have to consider some another scenario where you have to simulate the child task. So that is not possible directly inside the system. So Abdul is asking how to calculate energy consumption for each data center involved for the example you just described. So for this is the very simple example we have. So if we go for the uh, power aware examples, then we have the access to this energy consumption. So this is in itself is a topic with a full scope of the webinar. So maybe in next week or next to next week we can consider it, and I'll definitely cover this. And in fact, this thing I believe I've covered in my course as well, which is available on superbitsacademy.online. If you are subscribed to that, you might have gone through that particular part. So Kapil is asking, sir, why there is concept of homogeneous data center even when it's not possible. It's basically a theoretical concept we are discussing. So until unless we are not teaching the homogeneous part, we cannot take anyone to the heterogeneous part. That is why the things are there. So it's more or less an ideal scenario we are considering, which is not available in the real world system. But yes, you can take it as a uh, you know learning concept, and then while doing some comparisons in your research benchmarks, and you also consider these things to discuss about, which is again hypothetical, but there is no control of us on this. Right. So Madhav is asking, request to send link of recording and past session. Sorry, I was in metro while listening. Madhav, no issues. If you have already subscribed to the previous what previous webinar, then you must have received it. If it is not, what you can do is you can simply go and let me check if I have the link still available with me. Just give me a second. So it should be here. Okay, so here it is. So in case if you have missed, any one of you have missed to where it is. Chart. Okay. So in case if you have missed to attend previous seminar, I've just shared the link on the chat. You can go through that. This will get you the access to that particular recording. Then brings in Mazhar. Okay, no. So May is asking how to compare the delay with the other systems in simulation. So in what sense? I'm not able to make it out. Like how to compare the delay with the other systems in the cloud sim. So the delay within the cloud-based system, like when you are sending one event to the another, like I've just mentioned over here, the send method, right? Wherever the send method is there, you can use a delay corresponding to that. There is no issues. But if you are considering that delay between the events that are happening within the simulation, then you have to look at the scheduling intervals. So this is the basic difference here, right? I hope I have made your query clear. Then Mazhar is asking, I've read a paper in which many tasks can be run simultaneously in one virtual machine. I believe it can be possible just to have Explorer. So Mazhar, they must have done in the similar way. So they must have executed many tasks on one virtual machine in the time shared mode. And there might be virtual machines which are having the multiple CPUs. Then Neha is asking if we use random workload in our research, then every run can give different simulation time as well as energy efficiency. Neha, I think you didn't consider the point which I have made very clearly. Uh, uh, if you look at what I told you is that there are two ways we can do it. One is the random class thing, and one is the manual. In manual, I've generated the random ones, saved it inside my particular system, right? Let me share my other section again. Okay, Eclipse. Here is the Eclipse. So within this Eclipse, you might have noticed that I've created this text file, right? So once I generate this text file, instead of using this random, I'll be using the file class, right? File stream class to read this class one by one, line by line, and then putting that particular length to this particular length parameter, right? The length parameter which we are passing over here. So that is what I was I've explained to you, right? So in that case, when you do the repetition part and when you do the changes in your algorithm, then every time the workload will be same. Your simulation time may differ depending upon the changes which you make to your algorithm of task scheduling or resource scheduling. Okay. Then Mashu is asking, sir, can you show us how to schedule related tasks workflow in cloud thing? Mashu, it's again a topic with the full webinar scope. So maybe some other webinar I can do it. And very specifically, if I tell you, it will not be happening on the cloudlet. It will be happening on the work. It will not be happening on the cloud sim simulation toolkit. It will be happening on the workflow sim. So I'll do the seminar on that some Sunday, upcoming Sunday, whatever it is. So I'll be doing a poll for through my Telegram channel, right? That you can subscribe to, and whichever topic has the highest votes, I'll be taking that particular topic for the next Sunday. Then Kapil says, okay, sir, thank you. And then Madhav, I think you received the link, right? I'm also pasting it to everyone in the chat. If you have missed my previous session, you can download it from this particular link. Right? It's basically available online. Then comes is Abdul is asking, is there any online forum where we can have group discussion and ask for help when required? Abdul, one of the way you can connect with me is through email. That is hello@superwits.com. We have a Telegram channel. I'm just pasting the link for you. which is, again, if you are on Telegram, you can simply go and search for Superwits Academy, or you may go for t.me/Superwits Academy link, right? Just test it out if it works for you. Then comes this. Okay, I think missed. No. Then Mazhar is asking, well, now, cause suggest us how we can how we can use your provided knowledge in editing and research article. Mazhar, I'm not able to understand what you have mentioned here. I'm very sorry. You said, well, now suggest us. Okay, well, now suggest us how we can use your provided knowledge in the research work. I think this is something which is supposed to be discussed one-to-one. Your research work is your personal work, right? Where did you, Heather is asking, where did you share the link, sir? Heather, I've just pasted it again. Previously, I pasted it to Madhav directly, but now it's available to everyone. It's event.superwitsacademy.online/task scheduling webinar, right? You can check out in that. Mazhar is asking me if we write an article, how we can create different research scenarios. So it's up to you how you wanted to have it. So some people may have the research scenario with different kind of infrastructure if they are working on the research related, resource related allocation. Some are working on, some may consider different kind of VM configurations if we are working on task scheduling. Some may consider no, different delay to the tasks if we are working on the submission part of that particular cloudlet. So it depends what is a very specific scenario you wanted to have for your research hypothesis. Then Abdul is saying a humble request to include container and microservices in your lecture. So it's a hot topic in current cloud computing. Definitely we will do that. Abdul, thank you very much for your suggestion. I'll put these things into the poll, and whosoever wins, whichever the topic wins for that particular poll, we'll go for the next Sunday. Then Mazhar, please share your academic calendar when your course is going to start. Mazhar, it's already there on Superwits Academy, and you can check over there. There is no specific one-to-one training I do right now. There is something which I'm considering from February, but I'll let you know. In case if you want to get updates on that, you can simply subscribe to my newsletters. That is on events.superwitsacademy.online. Then I also wanted to ask, she is asking, I also wanted to ask regarding the IFOG SIM course to which I'm subscribed. So when will the remaining videos will be uploaded? Which I'm working on it. Hopefully soon you will get some videos corresponding to the further topics. And there is one more thing. I'm also considering to have certain topics on live webinars like this. So if you have any, just you may type in the chat, or may just directly mention through the Telegram chat section through this particular group, right? This channel, Superwits Academy. So that is where you can actually request a couple of the resources if you want. So any other queries if we have? So we may wait for another 5-10 minutes. Abdul, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for your appreciation. Okay, Asil is requesting for a network cloud SIM. So Asil, right now I am engaged in a full-time teaching practice. So I'll try to put it into the stream, but I'll not commit it. Maybe around April you may find the course. In case if you want to have update, please subscribe to my newsletter on events.superwitsacademy.online. That is where I generally post updates regarding what I'm going to be pushing out either through webinar or through the online course. Mazhar, definitely will do some webinar on IFOG SIM. Great. Rupali, thank you for appreciation. This is all the love of community. It's all your support that I've been able to, work around with all these kind of sessions. I think I've given everyone the right to unmute themselves. If you want to unmute yourself and share your thoughts, you can do that as well. Or thank you, Kapil, for your appreciation. I think any more queries do you have? Any more queries? If you have any more queries, we can wait for some time. Mazhar, thank you for your appreciation. So in case if you are considering for more resources, these are some of the resources where you can go and refer to. One is the cloud sim tutorials.online where I publish my blog articles. The frequency is not very consistent, but yes, whenever I get time, I just simply go and post over there. In case if you are interested to contribute anything on this cloud sim tutorials.online, I'm more than happy to have you on board. So there is an email address, hello@superwits.com. You can simply send a request to that, and we can arrange something that how you can publish on this particular link. Then I have few courses which are hosted on superwitsacademy.online. You can check it out. You can subscribe to those courses. They are on-demand, self-paced courses. And I have my own website which I've just started with. I've just changed it from the previous one. So this is www.anupinder.com. You can follow that as well. And in case if you are considering for subscribing to the newsletter, so that is they're on events.superwitsacademy.online, right? So these are some of the handles where you can actually go and either subscribe to or send a request to, right? So and the Telegram channel which I have already posted. So again, I'm posting over here t.me superwits academy, right? So this should also work for you, right? Najeem ji, thank you very much for your appreciation. I hope your work is on the path of completion. Thanks a lot, Mazhar. Thank you very much. I hope you got an access to the course which I've just sent you. A couple of days back, I've given you the access. All right, so if any more queries you have, I'm here for another 2 minutes. Otherwise, we can stop the session. It's already 10:30. Again, before we go, let me see how many of you are from India or any other country. Let me see from which places you are. I love to hear from you all. From which place you are right now? Great, India, Hyderabad. Chaitanya is from Hyderabad. KSA Nadeem is from KSA. Mazhar is from Pakistan. Great. Hadar is from Iraq. Neha is from India, Pune. Indore. Kapil is from Indore. Great. Rupali is from Delhi. Good. Oh, wow. Great. So just curious, are you on Google Scholar? Wanted to take a look. I'm not on the Google Scholars. There has been some problem with my ID. Okay, Asil is on from Iraq. Oh, great. So that's nice. Thank you very much for joining in from different sort of this different places. Thank you very much. So Chaitanya is asking, instead of CloudSim, is there any chance to work on Real Cloud, sir? Yes, definitely you can work on Real Cloud. It's up to you if you wanted to work on that, but you have to be very cautious in that case because you spend a lot of money in that. I did once, like I tell you one instance. I started two, three set of virtual machines, and it was just the initial period when I started with the Real Cloud-based system. So on Amazon, I started two, three virtual machines, and I forgot to terminate them, and the storage was like continued for full month. And at the end of the month, my credit card was billed for around, I think, 15, 16,000 rupees. So you have to be very careful in that particular prospect. if you're working on real cloud provider. Whereas in case if you have good labs in your university institutions or your organization, then I think OpenStack is the best platform to work around if you are interested in that. It takes a lot of effort to learn, but yes, this tool is quite good, especially for researchers if you wanted to work on real life based cloud workloads, right? Apart from that, there is one more Aneka cloud platform that you can go through. It is again from Dr. Rajkumar Bhaya's associated organization. For that, I think licensing is required, whereas OpenStack is free to use. So that's up to you, right?